Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today, and welcome to this educational presentation where today I want to talk about how I find stocks before they take off. Now, that's probably one of the most frustrating things about trading, especially what I hear from my students that are just started to join us. They say, Steve, I have a method and it works fine, but most of the time I can't capture those stocks that really take off. You know, the ones that just move and you look back later and you say, gosh, how come I couldn't get involved in that one? Why didn't my strategy generate a buy signal or even a sell signal? Because that big move just took off. It could have made my month or even my entire year. Well, I want to share with you a simple process today for finding those stocks before they take off. Because there really is a simple daily process that you must first follow. But it's extremely simple and it only takes about 4 steps. But let me share with you something that just happened this past month. As we look at GNUS, been in the news today, the stock has literally taken off. But if we look back roughly about a month ago, just before May began, we saw that the stock was absolutely doing nothing. I mean, this is basically a 25, 30, 35 cent stock, all right? Now, I know a lot of traders like to follow fundamental news. Let's say perhaps you were following this company or maybe the sector, and you saw that there was really nothing happening here. There was absolutely no direction. The stock is just basically going sideways, so you don't want to tie up your money. Well, with this simple 4-step process I'm going to reveal today, you actually could have seen that there was a buy signal generated just before May, just before last month, that potentially could have captured 6 points or 1,800% in just 1 month. So this is what we mean by being able to identify these big moves before they happen. And once again, you're going to see how simple this process is. It's a 4-step process because it's done automatically on our platform, the PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform I developed with Pro Trader Strategies that auto-identifies big moves in advance. So once again, welcome to this educational presentation. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. 12 years ago, roughly, I formulated my company along with Pro Trader Strategies with one goal in mind, and that was simply to educate traders around the world. I'm happy to state now that we have students in over 115 countries around the world and in every state in the United States following us or trading our methods and concepts. And I think the reason is because they're really sound fundamental methods that are really based on one thing, listening to the chart in front of you. I mean, think of it. How do you make most of your trading decisions? Most students that come to our courses and classes say, well, Steve, I used to listen to the fundamental news, or I used to wait for the jobless claims or the earnings reports, or I used to look and see what the company was doing, or maybe I followed that blog or that guy in that chat room. So ask yourself, do you make decisions on how you're going to buy or sell based on the same premises? Because if you do, ask yourself again, how is that working for you? Most likely it's not working that well. Sure, you may have a couple of really nice winners and then usually you give it all back, right? You're sitting there thinking, wow, I worked really hard for this and I'm just basically trading water or losing a lot of money. Now that's very common. In fact, when I first started trading some 43 years ago, I did the exact same things. All right, I listened to all the fundamental news. I looked at all the earnings. In fact, I had to because I was trading on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was making markets in roughly about 60 stocks. So I had to know what each and every stock was doing. I had to know about the CEOs, the direction of the company. I had to know about earnings. I had to know where the support and resistance was. I had to know the Fibonacci numbers. And guess what? Nothing worked, okay? My first year, I did all the same things that most of you are probably doing right now. And so I found out through my mentors and through careful research and study that there really is no consistency in those things. You're really only going to be a consistent trader if you make your own decisions based off what the market is telling you. Now, the good news is that's our goal. That's the void we fill. We simply teach you how to listen to the market, and it's actually simpler than trying to figure out the earnings reports or figure out the fundamental news. We teach you how to listen to the market so that you can make your own trading decisions. In my 43 years of trading, this is the only way you can become a consistent trader. Not by going to a chat room and seeing what they buy or sell, or not by listening to some so-called guru on TV, but by making your own decision and then sticking to the rules, okay? This is the gap we fill. This is what we teach our members around the world. And hopefully, you'll learn a little bit about this today in today's presentation. Now, before we begin, as always, we are first required by law to share this with you, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results using this simple process that I apply to find stocks before they move, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also, please remember that all examples, once again, are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, if you're looking for more education, I invite each and every one of you to follow us every day on Twitter. There's our handle right there. I would suggest copying that down, @SpecialistTrading, abbreviation. Every day I post different educational information, anywhere from signals our strategies have generated, and I give a little bit of information about what they're based off of, and also bits of financial trading wisdom that I've accumulated along the way. So there's lots of great, free, not greed, but free education. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, remember, once again, I stated in the opening statements, we're a little bit different from other companies in that we are first and foremost an educational company, meaning that our only goal, our only purpose is simply to educate you, not to give you signals, not to tell you what to buy or sell. It's simply to provide you with the information so that you can decide for yourself if you want to take that signal. You can decide for yourself where you want to enter. You can decide for yourself where you want to exit or place your stop. Now, obviously, we provide you with all those different variables, about upwards of 7 or 8 different ways to enter and also exit and also place your stop. But it's up to you to decide. So everyone should and is required to trade according to their means. That's why there's no statistics. There's no numbers about the worst case scenario drawdowns or best results going back 5 years, because we don't believe in that, because everyone is actually encouraged to trade according to their own means. We can't keep stats on thousands of students we have on how they trade differently. That's how you become consistent, by making your own trading decisions. So as you can see here, my goal is not to force feed you signals, and not to tell you what to buy or sell. My goal is simply to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. It's the same edge that was taught to me, and what I truly believe has sustained me now going on 4 decades. Hopefully it will be able to do the same for you. Now, I'm going to share with you a lot of slides using this process and a lot of current examples today. But I want to take all your questions, but if we stop for every slide, we'll be here far too long, the way other webinars are. So I like to do it a little bit differently. I like to wait till the end to answer any questions. So if you have a question, something doesn't make sense, or you want to ask about something, please write it down or try to remember it. I promise I'll get to it at the end of today's class, okay? The only question I will answer is the most common, and that is this being recorded? Yes, we record all of our webinars, so if you have to leave early or if you're having some technical issues, don't worry. Each and every one of you will be sent a link to this recording, okay? So we have a good crowd here today. Once again, I don't want to stop for every slide, so if you joined us late, please wait till the end of class, about the next half hour, 40 minutes, and I'll stop to answer all your questions. All right, with that stated, let's get into it. And this process is centered around the PTS XT Extreme Trend Indicator. Now, this is something that I've been trading for years now, but up until recently, we've formulated it into a process where we actually have it coded on our platform. So it's really simple now to see. When I was using it without the help of our programmers, I was looking at a number of indicators and cross-references in order to find out when this extreme trend was about to begin. But now it's extremely simple. So if you're wondering what the PTS XT is, it's a proprietary indicator designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. I know a lot of you will say, well, Steve, I thought you don't teach black boxes. I thought you share and educate us. Well, this is a proprietary indicator. I don't know what it's based off of. Well, the secret is not in really knowing how the signals are generated or what the formula is. The secret is in knowing and how to apply it. And that's what I teach you in our courses in the class. In fact, I'm going to share with you today, in my opinion, one of the best ways to apply it, which holds the highest probability for consistency. So that's really what the secret is, because I could give you the formula. You could figure it out on your own. It'd be very cumbersome to watch the way I've been doing for years. And I'm sure you would trade it, but most likely you'd lose money because you wouldn't know how to apply it correctly. This is what we do with our education. We teach you how to apply these tools correctly to your own trading. And remember, all of this was done and made simple to simplify your trading on our platform. That was the main reason. We didn't want you focusing on how to come up with this formulated proprietary tool and have to focus on what the numbers were and see if everything was lining up. We wanted to make it simple for you. So that's why we developed it into a proprietary tool, so that you could just have everything at your fingertips, one click away on our platform. It auto-identifies these big moves in advance. Okay, so let's begin. Let's begin with this 4-step process. And this is what I do. This is what I would suggest, or this is one of the ways you could actually apply this. In my opinion, this is one of the most consistent ways. But let's go through this process, okay? Firstly, we're going to go through step by step. And step 1 is simple. You're going to open up our platform, out of the new PTS Primo charting platform. As you can see right here, here's what it looks like. You're just going to open up the platform. That's how simple this is. And step 2 is you're going to apply the scanner feature because we want to scan for these setups. Now, where would you do that on our platform? Well, under the PTS XT Extreme Trend tab, right here in the upper green strategy tab corner here, all right? So once you click that on, after you've opened up the platform, you'll see this drop-down menu. All you simply will have to do is click on Scanner, and you're going to see this page appear, all right? Which leads us now to the next step, step 3. Choose the market you want to scan. I know that sounds simplified, but trust me, we have students that only trade currency pairs. We have students that trade Bitcoin, commodities, the Asian markets, Canadian markets, the S&P 500. It's entirely up to you. You can even pick E-mini futures. Whatever market you want to scan, we have a symbol list for that. Click on Load Symbols, and in this case, let's say we decided on the NASDAQ 100, okay? In a matter of seconds, you'll see this spreadsheet appear. Now, all you have to do is simply click on Scan, and you'll see a series of either green or red or both blocks on the far right. So what does this mean? Trade the signals with a bar count of 1. Okay, if we look back, let me go backwards here. These bars in green mean that there are buy signals in the corresponding stocks to the left. The red ones mean they're simply sell signals. So we want to only trade the signals with a bar count of 1. So what exactly does that mean? This is the last in our steps for finding these stocks. Well, if we look in the right corner here of the scanning page, we see bar count. What this means is it tells us how long this has been in a so-called extreme trend. For example, this has been an extreme trend for 4 days or 4 bars. This has been for 3 days or 3 bars, 2 and 1. We only want to focus on the ones that have a 1 bar count. Why is that so important? Because it's been my research after trading this for years that the 1 bar count, meaning that this has only been an extreme trend for 1 day, holds the highest probability for consistency because you're getting in right at the beginning. And it's the same thing if you were looking to go short. For example, we see these stocks here. Here is a 2 bar count, meaning that it's been in extreme trend for 2 days. We only want to be focusing on this one. Okay? So, as we see here, if you look at this example in ASGM, this was coming in before May, this is what you would see. If you click that on and you only pick the stocks that had a PTS XT bar number 1 extreme up signal, it would look like this. You would see the bar and it would be surrounded or squared off by a yellow color. What does that mean? That means that you are in an extreme uptrend. Now, does this mean with 100% certainty it's going to go to the moon and go up 20, 30 points? No, but it has a high probability that it will, okay? And as you can see, it went up 12 points in the next week or so. Now, this can work for small little moves. It can also work for extreme up moves, as we saw here in Amazon in March on the first bar with the extreme up signal colored in yellow. Well, look what happened. In the next month, the stock went up 475 points. So it's all relative to whatever stock you're looking at. It's all relative to how much you want to stay in. Now, remember, we're not saying you would have made 475 points. Some of our students will be trading this. Maybe they'll even buy calls, and they'll get out after they double their money. Or maybe if you were lucky enough to purchase the stock, well, maybe you'd make 50 points and say, I'm out. Is one better than the other? Absolutely not. Remember, we don't keep statistics on this because we encourage everyone to use their own exit level, to use their own entry point, to trade whatever they want. So we encourage this. So there's no way to keep track of how profitable this is because it's up to you to decide where you want to get in, where you want to get out. Now, right here, there are multiple ways for entry based off, if I go back and reverse, based off this first bar here, there are multiple ways I could have entered this. There's also multiple ways I could place my stop, and there's also multiple ways to exit, okay? We teach you all this in the course, and then it's up to you to decide. Now, I don't want you to think that it's only designed for stocks to go up, because as you can see here, here's an example of a PTS bar number 1 extreme down signal. Using the same format, you would scan, and when you saw the bar count of number 1, you'd see NCLH right here outlined in a kind of a reddish orange. All right. What this means is that that's your signal on the very first bar, and look what happened. The stock went down 45 points. Now, I believe at this point, somewhere down here, or maybe in the last month, the company filed for bankruptcy. It's funny how just based off price and a few indicators alone in a proprietary formula, we were telling you well in advance, 2 months in advance of that announcement, that you should be selling and that there was an extreme down signal in this stock. This is why it is not required in any way to follow fundamental news. Remember, I followed fundamental news some 4 decades ago, and it didn't work for me then, so I would not in any way recommend it now. If you feel you must, then by all means, go ahead. But fundamental news, earnings reports, jobless claims are in no way required, or are they used in any of our proprietary techniques, our teaching. It's simply not needed. If you say, well, Steve, how can you say that? Well, I'm the best example of that. I stopped looking at that 4 decades ago and I'm still here. So if I'm still able to be here trading, it means that it's really not required. But once again, it's entirely up to you. If you feel you must use it, go ahead. Here's an example in a 4-hour chart, the Australian dollar, because I don't want you to just think it works on stocks, okay? The same exact thing happened. You could have scanned for 4-hour charts of the Australian dollar or the currency pairs. You would have seen that there was a signal generated and there was a yellow block outlining this bar. And the currency pair went up 200 pips, or roughly about $2,000 per contract in the next week or so. Now, as you can see, once it left, that meant it was out of the extreme buy zone. So at this point, most likely you would want to be avoiding trading. You wouldn't want to be in. Remember, we only want to be involved in those low-hanging fruit scenarios where the stock, the currency pair, the future, the Bitcoin contract goes straight up or straight down, because that's where you're going to have the biggest bang for your buck. Here's an example in a 10-minute chart, the E-mini futures, okay? This was in May last month. Once again, you have bar number 1 of an extreme downtrend signal. You could have scanned for this. You would have seen that it was covering the first bar here, this 10-minute bar. It went down 25 points. That's roughly over $1,200 per contract. And then once it left that block, you want to avoid trading, because most likely it's just going to kind of go sideways, or, not a lot of volatility in it. Lastly, we could look at Bitcoin here, okay? Here's a daily chart of Bitcoin. It generated a extreme up signal. There's bar 1, circle, or I should say surrounded in, squared off in yellow. This was in April, and as you can see, Bitcoin took off. Now, ultimately, when you look back at stocks, you'll see these blocks. These are the blocks you want to be trading in, okay? The down blocks, the buy blocks, the up blocks. You'll see that this is an Apple, an older chart in Apple. Here's another example, a 1-hour chart of the British pound, okay? This was in May 26th. You see how that's where you want to be involved? As the extreme up block concluded here, we want to be out and then wait to get in on the first block to the downside. Remember, these first signals here hold the highest probability for consistency. So as we look at a chart here in Bitcoin, we see that the sell blocks are the ones you want to be selling. You want to be avoiding when you're out of the block, selling the block again, avoid trading here, and then back into the buy block again. It's that simple. That's the beauty of this tool. It really pinpoints these high probability areas for an extreme either uptrend or a downtrend. And after all, isn't that where you want to be in? One of the worst things you can do is buy a stock, a future, a currency pair, even Bitcoin, and then be involved in a market like this where it just goes sideways for the next day or two, all right? You don't want to be involved in that. Or you buy it here and it kind of goes down and then back up. By this point, you say, well, I just broke even, I'm out, and that's where it takes off. Here's where you want to be involved, right before it takes off, to the upside or to the downside. That's the beauty of the PTS XT indicator. It has a high probability, although not guaranteed. Not every setup works this way, but we teach you in the course how to avoid a lot of these and how to get involved in the ones that do have a high level of probability for success. All right, so let's look at some recent signals based off this four-step process I shared with you. Remember, it's as simple as going to our platform, clicking on the scanner in the drop-down menu, choosing whatever market you want to scan for, and then only trading those ones that have a bar count of 1. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on. Remember now, this is just one of the many ways in which to trade with this tool. We're only going to show you one here. At the very end, I'll share with you a different way in which to do it. All right, but right now, we're only going to focus on this, the simplest, excuse me, and I believe one of the most consistent ways in which to trade it. Okay, here's an example in big, BIG. All right, this was in April. We had a buy signal. Our first yellow bar colored yellow. Stock gained 20 points in 1 month. All right, now this is not something that is done in hindsight. You would have known, as I back up here, you would have known on the 17th of April that you had a buy setup. It's up to you how you want to enter, up to you how you want to exit or place your stop. And we teach you this in the course. But potentially you could have captured 20 points if you stayed in for the month. That's the beauty of this tool. How about Mark, M-A-R-K, all right? Been in the news lately at the beginning of May, okay? The last day of April, it had a buy signal, the first green colored block, or first I should say yellow color block. For some reason we put green here. And as you can see, straight up 3 points. And I know someone would say, well, wow, 3 points, that's not really a lot. I can't say that's an extreme move. Well, actually it was, because that was 500% in 1 month. I mean, just think if you made 500% in Tesla or 500% in Apple in 1 month. That would have been a really nice gain, right? Well, it's all relative. This is, a very inexpensive stock. I believe, as we look here on the far right, it was only a 50 or 60 cent stock, okay? You could have purchased thousands of shares of this and made 500% potentially if you held on. All right, let's look at another example here. Recently in SPLK. This was in May, the 15th, mid-May of last month. Here's an extreme up signal, the first block right here. The stock gained 25 points in just 5 days. All right. Wouldn't you have liked to have been in that trade? See, the beauty of this tool is that you don't have to wait around most of the time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every setup works this simply, but you see it more and more. And with what we teach you in the course, you can really keep, out of the ones that don't work as well, or keep them to a minimum and be involved in the ones that do. We show you how to do this. Here's an example in Facebook, okay? Looking in Facebook here in March, look how you could have taken advantage of that big swing to the downside in March. The very first block here, and taken advantage of 60 points to the downside. Then, coming into May, the very first yellow block, you could have taken advantage of 30 points, gotten out of this one, and then gotten in again and taken advantage of 30 more points to the upside, all right? This was in Facebook. Remember, we want to stay out of these markets and only be involved in the blocks, either to the upside or to the downside. As we look at JBHT, all right, this was in the middle of May, on May 20th. As we can see here, we have our first setup, 15 points in 1 week, okay? This is where you want to be involved, in the low-hanging fruit areas of the market. DLTR, once again in May, we have our block around the stock on the 19th, 20 points coming into the 28th of May, just last week. How about ISRG? I realize this is an expensive stock, but just to show you for an example, I mean, you could have purchased calls or maybe bought 1 or 2 shares, but we gave a buy signal. I didn't say we, I shouldn't say we. The indicator gave a buy signal on the 18th of May. The stock went up 50 points in the next couple of weeks, okay? Here's another example, ADSK, in the middle of May as well. Now, I know there's a propensity for buy signals, but as we have seen, the market has been going straight up for the past month. So all this indicator does is get in sync with the market. And most likely you won't see a lot of sell signals when the market's going up, and that's good. Why would you want to sell and go against the trend? This is mainly just to find those extreme trends where you see stocks, futures, currency pairs going straight up. ADSK generated a buy signal on the 18th. The stock went up 20 points coming into last week. Now, GNUS, I really don't know much about this stock. I just saw this today. It was a high flyer and it was a very active stock today. I punched it up on our platform and noticed that at the end of May, once again, or I should say April, it gave a PTS XT Extreme up signal. Now, here was the first colored bar, block colored bar right here on the 30th. As we can see, the stock, this is today. I took this snapshot today coming in this morning. This is the stock. It's up 6 points in 1 month, or 1,800%, because when the signal was given, the stock was roughly trading about 30 cents. Remember, once again, this is not based on anything fundamental, so I'm sure some news or something has caused this stock to go up. I really don't care. Why would I need to know what the news was when back here, if I backtrack for a second, there was no inclination of any news event happening. There was no inclination of anything that was going to be announced. The stock was basically just flatlining here at the end of April. But it's funny how the indicator pinpointed that there was an extreme trend about to happen in advance, a full month in advance, before the stock generated an 1,800% gain. So this is why we say fundamental news is not required. I mean, it's not like the company called me up a month ago and said, hey, Steve, you may want to buy our stock because we're going to make an announcement. The stock's going to gain 6 points in the next month. No one called me up. No one told me. I don't follow fundamental news. How did I know to follow this? Because the stock was generating a buy signal on the PTS XT Extreme trend indicator. As we look at mRNA, now a lot of you may not remember this, but this stock shot up tremendously in April. Why? Because there was news of it developing a vaccine for the coronavirus. Really good news, right? Okay. It's funny how a full month before that, the PTS XT Extreme tool generated an uptrend signal. This was in March, at the very end of March, when the stock is basically doing nothing after coming down for a while. It highlighted a bar on the 27th, well before that news came out. Okay. And the stock went up 55 points from there. Here's when the news was announced in May that they were developing with high promise a vaccine. Now, it's funny how the indicator picked that up a full month or two in advance. This is how powerful this tool is. Let's look at PayPal, PYPL, okay? Once again, in the middle of April, a buy signal was generated. Nothing much really happened here for a week. This is what will happen many times. You'll see this and you'll say, well, gosh, I got this. And basically the stock is just going sideways. Why am I doing this? There's nothing that's happening. My money has been tied up for a week, or I'm in the option. I only have a week or so left before the option expires. This stuff doesn't work. Well, many times you'll have to wait a little bit, okay, before it kicks in. But as long as price bars are still in that yellow block, the indicator is flashing an extreme up signal. And as we can see, it kicked in a little bit later, and ultimately, it potentially could have captured you 45 points to the upside. Here's an example in Beyond, BYND. Once again, this was in the beginning of May. This is the first bar that was outlined yellow by the tool. The stock went up 45 points in 1 week. Right? These are the trades you want to get in, right? As traders, we all hate to get into a trade or a signal. We're all excited. We've done our research. We followed it. It doesn't matter what market it is. It doesn't matter what direction. But the minute we get in, it goes against us, right? That's the worst feeling in the world for a trader, because you've been waiting, you're excited, and you just start to second guess yourself and say, gosh, maybe I should get out of this. I did the exact opposite I should have been doing. This is the beauty of the PTS XT Extreme uptrend tool, because the fact is, not guaranteed, but for a good percentage of the time, the minute you get in, it will take off. And that's the best feeling in the world, knowing that you got in right at the most opportune time. As we see here in PDD, the same thing happened with this. This was in May. A buy signal was generated on the 6th, 20 points in the next 2 weeks. Okay. Here's an example in Apple. This was in April, after the market had been falling sharply. Apple generated a buy signal, and everyone thought the market was headed for much lower levels. A buy signal was generated on the 22nd of April. The stock continued to go up 35 points coming into the middle of May. Now, a lot of students always say, well, Steve, okay, I understand this proprietary tool colors the blocks around the bars. So does it repaint them? Do things adjust? If I look back in time, does it go back and readjust? No. Once a block has been colored on the first bar, it will stay that way until the signal is no longer valid. And then you will see the price bars leave the block. Now, many times that block will only last a couple of bars, and it'll say it didn't work out, and it'll get you out. Or many times it'll last for a week or even a month or maybe even 6 months. But it will never repaint, as we see here in QDEL in the middle of April. Same thing here. We have our block. This will never repaint. Once the bar is closed, it will stay this color. And the stock went up 115 points in 1 month. Not a bad little trade, right? And this is why we say the bar number 1 count. The first bar on the scanner is the most important because, as you can see here, it holds the highest potential for consistency because you get in usually, if it's going to be a big move, that's where you want it to get in, on the very first bar. And you can only find that out through the scanning process. Here's another example in Tesla. All right, this was in mid-April. A buy signal was generated. Stock went up 220 points. As you can see, this is where you want it to get in. As we look at Shop, this was in April as well. The first blocked bar, it went up 290 points. As you can see, looking in hindsight, this is the bar you wanted to get in. Now, let's look at some other examples of different directions and different time frames, because we know that not everyone just trades to the long side. And if we go into a sustained downward move, you're not going to want to get buy signals because the tool won't generate buy signals. It will generate short signals. Let's see some ones that were generated in the past. As we look back at SHAK Shack, we see here that in February, well before the market fell out of bed in February, it generated a bar number 1 extreme down signal, okay? This is well before, we went into the downward crisis with the pandemic, and in March, how the market fell out of bed, thousands of points. Well, you could have taken advantage of this before a 32-point gain to the downside, okay? And you see how, once again, this was the bar you wanted to enter. You could have bought puts, or you could have gone short the stock. It's entirely up to you. But once you leave the blocked area, the block zone, you want to avoid trading altogether until another one is generated. Here's an example in USO. Now, this is the ETF that represents oil, okay? This is oil drilling. Once again, people were talking about how oil fell out of bed. Well, in mid-February, a down signal was generated. And as you can see, 50 points to the downside. You avoided trading here in April, and then 20 more points to the downside. This is all done without hindsight, without looking at news, without looking at OPEC, without seeing what's going on with the oil futures. It's all right there. It's all been done for you with one-click access. As we look here in a weekly chart of BABA, okay, this is an older chart, weekly chart going back to 2016. Here we see we had a nice 30-point gain. We want to avoid trading once we're out of the block and then get back in as the stock went up 90 points, and this was starting in 2017, okay? Here's another weekly chart in CVX. This was in the beginning of the year in January. The stock was basically going sideways, where most people would thought, well, there's really nothing happening here. We're just kind of going sideways. In fact, it looks like support right here. The PTSXT generated a sell signal well before the stock fell 65 points coming into March and April. Now let's look at commodities, because we know that a lot of traders, when they don't feel comfortable about the markets, they will leave and go into something more tangible like actual commodities. Here's a chart in coffee. All right, as we can see here in November of last year, coffee was going straight up. Then all of a sudden it reversed course and went straight down coming into February. What if we applied the PTSXT tool? Well, we see here that on the very first up signal, you could have potentially captured 26 points, avoided trading here in December into January, and then in January, taking advantage of this extreme downtrend for 21 points. So you see, it makes no difference which direction, it makes no difference which time frame, and it makes no difference which market you can apply this to. Okay, so let's recap. What did we teach you today? Remember, the PTSXT Extreme Trend Tool is an indicator designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. It's proprietary, but remember, the secret is not in knowing what generates a signal and how to calculate it, because it's rather cumbersome. And trust me, I did this for years, and it was difficult to trade with it. The secret is in knowing how to trade for it and what signals hold the highest probability for success. Now, let's talk about some of the advantages of trading with this tool. Remember, it identifies these high probability zones in advance. We tell our traders that this is going to really help to make you a consistent trader because you know when you should be trading. But one of the best things about this is that you know when you shouldn't be trading. Many times you'll have these great trades and then you'll have a series of losing trades. Well, these zones, these blocks can keep you out of those choppy whipsaw markets because this is where most often traders fail. We all know this. When the market is going sideways, it looks like it's going up, then reverses and goes down, then it reverses and goes back up. Those are the markets you want to stay out of. Most of the time, the PTS-XT tool does not generate signals in these choppy markets. So those are the ones you can avoid. When you do that, you will automatically increase your odd for consistency because you're only trading those strong trending markets and you're out of the whipsaw choppy markets. Now, it also pinpoints these low-hanging fruit trade areas. Now, I'm going to show you in just a few minutes a different way in which to approach this. But many times you'll see that there's a stock or a future that's already been involved in a high trending area. And you can apply any strategy, any method, any technique once you're in these blocked zones. So it provides multiple trade opportunities, whether you're using one of our techniques for entry or for exit or for stop placement or one of your own. It gives you multiple trade opportunities to trade once you identify these blocks. Now, it also identifies sectors to trade and, most importantly, to avoid. Let's say you want to look at an ETF that follows the semiconductors. And let's say that the semiconductors is in the zone to avoid. Well, then maybe you don't want to trade that stock that makes up one of those sectors. You want to stay out of it. Now, let's say another sector just went into the buy zone, the first buy block. Well, then the stock that you're potentially looking at, that you're interested in, that makes up that ETF, maybe you'd want to buy that, or maybe you'd want to look to apply your own strategy to that. This is the beauty of this. You can use this as a market timing tool, okay? But I think the best thing is that it eliminates the trading traffic jams and the congestion. This is where traders that I've taught all over the world, that I teach in seminars and webinars, they always say, Steve, I just have trouble. I'll be involved in something, and then all of a sudden, it just goes the opposite direction, or it goes sideways, and my money is tied up in this, and I thought it was going to be a short-term swing trade, and now I've turned into a long-term investor because this is not acting the way I thought it was going to act. Well, it eliminates waiting for these moves because it is only designed to get you involved in these strong, extreme trending moves. Remember, as traders, this is what happens most of the time. We're waiting to take advantage of a big move. We're waiting in line behind these other stocks, behind these other markets, and we're like asking ourselves, why do I always get involved in this? Why am I always at the end of the line? Why am I always not taking those big moves like in GNUS today? But with the PTS-XT Extreme Trending tool, you go right to the express lane. You go right to the ATM. You're right there, and you can take advantage of a really big, strong move. That's the beauty of this tool, and that's why we've had so many testimonials in the last month or two when we first introduced this tool from our students who have traded it around the world, who say this is for the very first time been able to make them a consistent trader because now they know when and where to trade. So why wait any longer for success? You owe it to yourself to become a consistent trader. Please take advantage of this great offer we have for you today. This is a special discount for all the attendees today. We're going to offer you our PTS-XT Extreme Trend. This generates these high probability zones. Remember, most of the examples today were based on showing and displayed off stocks. We were showing you stocks. But remember, you can trade it in any market and in any time frame. So it makes no difference where you want to trade it. You can apply your current strategy to it. All right. Once you see a stock that you're interested in that's in one of these blocks in one of these zones, you can just see if your own strategy would generate a signal in sync with it. Okay. This tool gives you the confidence to pull the trigger, and it's great for market timing. For the first time, you'll be able to trade in the express lane and become a consistent trader. Now, on top of that, remember I showed you the process today, how simple it is to identify those blocks, those first bars that have the highest level for consistency. You can only find that on our platform, the platform I developed with Pro Trader Strategies that identifies these extreme trends in advance. Well, for today, we're going to offer you 12 months free. If you decide to become a PTS-XT Extreme Trend member, you're going to get 12 months free of the platform. Now, look at all the things you can do here. You get one-click access to the indicator. You're also going to get these other things, our enhanced buy-sell line, the strength of trend tool, a tool that tells you if a particular trend is running out of steam or not. You'll get, obviously, our signal scanner. You'll get auto-generated exit levels. This is just one of the exit levels we teach in our course, and personalized tech support. But let me share with you something that's only found on the PTS XT Extreme Trending Tool. This is our tracker feature. All right, so what exactly is this? Well, let's say we're looking at this stock, QRVO. Now, obviously, this is where we taught you today where you get the most bang for your buck on the very first bar that's colored in the yellow block, right? Now, obviously, that's where you want to get in with the scan. But let's say you missed it and you weren't scanning, let's say you were out of town or you've missed this stock and it's up 4 days. Now, you say to yourself, gosh, I missed that bottom signal there. I really like this stock, though. I've been looking at this for ages. I don't know how I missed it. Well, this is why we devised this new tool that we call the tracker. Here's how you would use it. And you're only going to find this on our platform. Click on the PTS Extreme Trend tab right here. And in the drop-down menu, you've got the highlighted signal. Simply click on the tracker as well, the tracker feature. And what does this do? It simply tracks a little bit above the high of every bar, as you can see. Now, as this trend is proceeding to go higher, well, you don't want to use it this way. You want to use it when price starts to decline. You see how we went down a little bit lower the next day? Now, we're still in the yellow uptrend block. Now, the tracker went down a little bit. So what you want to do is, this is just a reference that when we trade above here, you want to buy. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly at our tracker. It could be 1 or 2 ticks above the high of that bar. But the tracker is just a display telling you that price is going lower. And until you trade above that, you don't want to buy yet. But this is a great extra way to get in if you've missed one of the signals. So as you can see here, price has been steadily declining for the past 3 days. But you're still in the yellow block, so the indicator is still saying that this is an extreme uptrend. So that what the tracker does, it's displaying where you want to get in if you trade there. And as you can see, the very next bar you did. So you would have purchased on the opening right here at roughly 96. And the stock went up 13 more points. So this is a great way to enter into a trade once the block has already been generated. If you missed the very first one, here's another way to trade this. Remember, we have multiple ways to trade the PTS XT indicator. This is just one of the different ways, and it's only found on our platform. Now, remember in March when the market fell out of bed? You remember when, the scare of the pandemic and the stock market was just falling just thousands of points every day, making records to the downside? Well, look what happened here in the spiders. That's the ETF that represents the S&P 500. In mid to end of February, a block was generated, a sell block generated around this bar here on the 25th of February, well before the market fell out of bed. Now, this holds the highest opportunity for consistency if you took advantage of selling on this block. But what happens if you missed it? Okay, as you can see here, the next 4 days it went lower. Well, this is where the tracker comes in. Click on the tracker once again, and you'll see that it continued to make lower lows. But what you're looking for is a bounce. So as price bounced, you could have had the tracker, and once price went below that, that's where you'd enter. And someone would say, well, why would I enter there? Because you're still in the reddish-orange downward extreme zone. So once you would have traded below there, that's where you would have sold, and we all know what happened for the remainder of March. You could have taken advantage of thousands of points to the downside. And if you missed that entry point, guess what? The tracker generated 2 more points you could have entered. So this is only found on our platform, and we're including that with 12 months if you're going to be a brand new member of the course. All right, so let's break this down. Our usual price for this is $49.95. It's that, it's really that powerful indicator. It's so powerful. That's why we're charging that much. But we're going to discount it. $500 today, you're going to save $500, and new customers will also get 12 months of the platform for free. But here's one more thing we're throwing in. We realize if you can't come up with $44.95, guess what? We have payment plans. So for a small deposit, you can still be up and running. You don't have to come up with the full price. You can still be up and running and get 12 months of the platform, okay? So this is a great opportunity to get your trading in gear with an extreme trend. If you like any of the signals I just shared with you today, most of those all took place this last month, okay? What happens if the market changes? What happens if the market goes sideways? What happens if the market goes straight down? The extreme trend indicator will be there for you. So this is a great opportunity. Remember, you do not have to come up with $44.95. You can if you want to and pay in full, but for a small deposit, you can still be up and running as early as today, okay? Pro Trader Strategies will devise a payment plan with you. So here's how to take advantage of this. Contact my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. I would highly recommend calling them directly. There's absolutely no obligation. They would be more than happy to establish a payment plan with you, tell you how much you would have to put down, and you can be up and running today and be a student of mine this afternoon with the PTSXT Extreme Trend Tool, okay? So I would recommend calling them directly at area code 310-598-6677. Now that link on the bottom was just posted on the chat box of the GoToWebinar column on the far right. So you don't have to copy and paste that link because it's not live on the screen here. You can simply go to the chat box in the GoToWebinar column and click that on, okay? And that will take you to more information, or if you want to sign up online, you can do that there. Now, I promised you the last 10 or 15 minutes for any questions. So once again, if you have them, just go to your question and answer box, and I'll leave this up here so you can copy down that phone number or the email address, okay? But let me open that up really quickly here. And let's see, what is the error rate of your scanner? Well, once again, Kevin, when you say error rate, that would mean that we had to test each and every one of our students, thousands of students who are using this, and ask them, okay, well, how are you going to enter? Are you going to be taking this? Because it's not a system. You can look at this and things we teach you in the course, you can look at one of the first bar setups and say to yourself, well, you know what? This is not a high probability one. I won't take this one. So it's purely up to you. As I stated, you may have come in later, but I stated in the opening, our belief is most traders fail because you're listening or relying on someone else, such as a system, such as some guy on TV or in a chat room. What we do is the opposite. We provide you with the information. We give you different variables and options which to enter or not to enter, and then you decide, okay? So I think you may have come in late. I said at the beginning there are absolutely no statistics because that would be doing you a disservice. That would be saying that you all have to trade this the same way, and that goes entirely against our philosophy, okay? Someone's asking, can you go back to today's live scan to see how it looks? No, because I'm sure you would want to back test it. And that wasn't today anyway, so don't worry. Let's see here. Why do I need all the other Primo charts and extras? Well, remember, the Primo charts, you don't need them. They're there as a service to help you for more information. Remember, knowledge is the key here. If you can use different things to help you make your own decision, why wouldn't you want to do that? Think of any athlete, think of any performer. If someone says, okay, you're just an actor, just do this, just read the lines, and that's all you need to do. Well, someone would say, well, yes, but I want to know other things in terms of that. But what about an athlete? Someone said, well, just hit the ball or make the basket. That's all you need to do. But don't you need to know how to play defense? Don't you need to know a certain way to shoot? There are different variables that will help you do that one thing. So we provide you with all those things on the course. That's like asking for, why would I need to have an appetizer? Why would I need to have a salad? Why would I need to have a vegetable? Why don't I just eat the main meal? Because all those other things make up the full meal, okay? If you're asking me what do I prefer to trade on, well, that's entirely, once again, your decision. Remember, if we told you where to trade, once again, that's going back to the process of telling somebody what to trade. That's your decision. My only suggestion would be, since our philosophy is to help you make your own trading decision, our philosophy is if you're going to be making your trading decisions, then why would you have to pay for extra perks and things since you're making your own decisions? So you don't need to pay for another one's advice if you're making your own decision. So I would say just make it as inexpensive as possible, okay? Good questions here. But remember, this is all designed to put you in control. This is not a system that backtests each of the million ways in which to trade it. Remember, that is what leads to your failure. As I said in the beginning, the reason why most traders fail is because you're taking yourself out of the game and relying on someone or something else to tell you what the best broker is, what the best time frame is, what the best way is to trade. You have to make that decision. In my 43 years of trading, this is the only way one becomes consistent. Now, the goal of us is to teach you how to do these things. So that's the gap we fill. That's the void we fill. We provide you with all this different information, and then we work with you so that ultimately you can make your own decision. And for the very first time in your trading career, you're in charge of your own trading destiny. This is what makes a trader consistent. Not relying on going to a signal service, not going to a chat room. We don't believe in those things, okay? Not relying on the statistics. Because trust me, years ago, I used to teach and trade systems. And guess what? They used to have back-tested results going back 10, 20 years of phenomenal results. Very minimal losses, small drawdowns. And when the market changed, when we experienced the 1987 crash, none of those things worked. All those systems went out the window, okay? So everyone would say, well, why? That doesn't make sense. I thought the backtesting works. Yes, backtesting works until it doesn't work. So that's why the only way to become consistent is relying on what makes you feel comfortable. If you only feel comfortable using a small stop with limited risk, well, then that's fine. That's the one you should use. If you have more capital to risk and you feel comfortable taking a larger risk and a larger stop, then fine. That's the one you should use. That's why we don't backtest, because everyone should trade according to their own means, okay? Now, if you're interested in getting more information concerning return policies, concerning cost, concerning anything in terms of a down payment for a payment plan, contact Pro Trader Strategies. I'm in charge of the teaching and of the trading. They're in charge of all the discounts, of the policies, of all of the different ways in which to handle the tech support. So remember, there's absolutely no obligation. I would suggest, highly suggest, giving them a call right now. They would be happy to give you the information, to work with you over the phone. There's no obligation at all, and then you can make up your own mind, all right? But I would really take advantage of this offer before price increases in the near future, okay? Okay, as we close up, I just want to say thank you so much for attending today. I hope you learned a little bit about our philosophy and about the way we want to teach and about this process, this simple process that really has an uncanny ability to identify these stocks, these futures, these currency pairs, Bitcoin, commodities, before they have an extreme either up or downward move. It's a great, great tool. I use this personally on a daily basis. So please, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the PTS XT Extreme Trend course. Thank you so much for attending. I wish you all of luck, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.